The fluorescent lights of Chicago Memorial Hospital flickered as Detective Marcus Chun pushed through the emergency room doors. His badge swung from his neck, catching the harsh light as he made his way past gurneys and harried nurses. He wasn't here on official business. Not tonight. Tonight he was here because his partner, Garrett Walsh, had been shot. Marcus found him in room 347, propped up against starched white pillows, his left shoulder wrapped in so much gauze it looked like he was wearing half a mummy. Costume. Garrett's face was pale, but his eyes were alert, focused on the woman sitting beside his bed. Vivienne Walsh. Garrett's wife of 7 years. She was beautiful in that effortless way some women managed. Dark auburn hair falling in waves past her shoulders, green eyes that seemed to shimmer even in the unflattering hospital lighting. Her hand clutched Garrett's, and she was whispering something Marcus couldn't hear. "Hey, partner," Marcus said, announcing his presence to Garrett's head turned, and despite the pain medication, his face lit up. "Marcus, you didn't have to come. Are you kidding? You take a bullet and expect me not to show up?" Marcus pulled up a chair on the opposite side of the bed. "Besides, I need to hear this story straight from you. The reports are saying you jumped in front of a mugger's gun." Garrett glanced at Vivienne, who squeezed his hand encouragingly. "Not exactly a mugger. Viv and I were walking back from dinner at that Italian place on Ashland Avenue. You know the one, with the tiramisu you keep telling me to try." "Romano's," Marcus confirmed. "Right. So we're walking, and this guy comes out of nowhere. Ski mask, gun, the whole 9 yards. He's screaming at us to empty our pockets, our wallets, everything." Garrett's voice grew quieter. "But then he looks at Viv. Really looks at her. And I see his hand shaking, see his finger moving toward the trigger, and I didn't think. I moved. He pushed me out of the way," Vivienne said, her voice cracking. "The bullet was meant for me, Marcus. Garrett saved my life." Marcus studied them both. Something felt off, but he couldn't put his finger on it. "Did you get a look at the shooter? Any identifying features?" "It all happened so fast," Garrett said. "But I'd say maybe 6 feet. Tall, average build. White guy, I think, based on what I could see of his hands. He ran north on Ashland after he fired." "We're canvassing the area," Marcus assured him. "Security cameras, witnesses, the works. We'll find this guy." Vivienne stood abruptly. "I should get some coffee. Let you two talk shop." She leaned down and kissed Garrett's forehead with such tenderness that Marcus felt like an intruder. "I'll be right back, baby." As soon as she left, Marcus leaned forward. "Okay, what aren't you telling me?" Garrett's expression shifted. "What do you mean?" "Come on, G. I've been your partner for 4 years. I know when you're holding something back." There was a long pause. Garrett's jaw worked as if he were chewing on words he couldn't quite spit out. Finally, he sighed. "I think Viv's having an affair." The words hung in the air like smoke. "What?" Marcus felt his eyebrows shoot up. "Are you serious?" "I've suspected it for about 3 months now. Late nights at work. She's a pharmaceutical rep, right? Supposedly, she's been traveling more for regional conferences. But her stories don't always add up. She comes home smelling like cologne that isn't mine. And last week I saw a text on her phone before she snatched it away. Just 2 words, miss you. And you still took a bullet for her," Marcus said, not bothering to hide his disbelief that Garrett's laugh was bitter. "Crazy, right? In that moment, when I saw that gun pointed at her, nothing else mattered. Not the suspicions, not the late nights, not the distance between us. I just knew I couldn't let her die." He looked away. "I love her, Marcus. Even if she doesn't love me anymore." Marcus didn't know what to say. He'd met his wife, Olivia, at the police academy, and they'd been solid for 12 years. They Idea of loving someone who betrayed you was foreign to him. Have you confronted her? No. I keep telling myself I'm wrong, that I'm being paranoid. And now, after this. Garrett gestured to his wounded shoulder. How do I accuse my wife of cheating when she's been by my side every second since the shooting? Maybe that's guilt talking, Marcus suggested gently. Before Garrett could respond, Vivienne returned with 2 coffees. She handed one to Garrett and kept the other for herself, settling back into her chair with the practiced ease of someone who'd spent hours in that exact position. Everything okay? She asked, looking between them. Just fine, Garrett said, but his smile didn't reach his eyes. Marcus stayed for another 20 minutes before making his excuses. As he walked down the hospital corridor, his detective instincts buzzed like static. Something about this whole situation didn't sit right. 3 days later, Marcus sat at his desk in the precinct, surrounded by reports and surveillance footage. The shooting was being treated as an attempted robbery, but they had next to nothing. No security cameras caught the incident directly. No witnesses had come forward. The bullet they'd extracted from Garrett's shoulder was from a common 9mm, untraceable without a weapon to match it to. Dead end after dead end. Marcus was about to call it a day when his phone rang. The caller ID showed Garrett's home number. Walsh residence, a voice answered, but it wasn't Garrett or Vivienne. It was an older woman, her tone clipped and efficient. This is Detective Marcus Chen. Who am I speaking with? This is Barbara Walsh, Garrett's mother. I'm calling because I found your number in his phone, and I thought you should know, Vivienne is gone. Marcus sat up straighter. Gone? What do you mean gone? I mean she's left. Packed her bags and walked out this morning. Garrett came home from his follow-up appointment, and she'd cleared out half the closet. No note, no explanation. He's devastated. Where is he now? Upstairs, in their bedroom. He won't talk to me. Detective Chen, what's going on? My son takes a bullet for that woman, and she abandons him. Marcus promised to come by and ended the call. 20 minutes later, he was standing in Garrett and Vivienne's bedroom, watching his partner sit on the edge of an unmade bed, staring at nothing. She took the photo albums, Garrett said, his voice hollow. Our wedding pictures, vacation shots, everything. It's like she's erasing me. Marcus sat beside him. Did she say anything? Leave any kind of message? Garrett shook his head. I called her cell. Went straight to voicemail. I called her work. They said she'd submitted her resignation yesterday. Yesterday, Marcus, while I was still in the hospital. I'm going to find her, Marcus promised. We'll get answers. What if I don't want answers? Garrett looked at him with red-rimmed eyes. What if knowing is worse than wondering? Marcus had no response to that. It took Marcus 2 weeks to track Vivienne down. She'd been careful, turned off her phone, stopped using credit cards, avoided her usual haunts. But she'd made one mistake. She'd contacted her sister Natasha, who lived in Milwaukee. And Natasha, after Marcus explained the situation, gave up Vivienne's location, motel off Interstate 94, just outside Kenosha. Marcus made the drive alone. He didn't tell Garrett. Not yet. Room 217 was on the second floor, overlooking a parking lot full of rust-stained cars and broken asphalt. Marcus knocked 3 times before the door cracked open, chain still attached. Vivienne's face appeared in the gap. She looked different. No makeup, hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, dark circles under her eyes that spoke of sleepless nights. Marcus. Her voice was barely a whisper. We need to talk, Vivienne. I can't. I can't talk about this. Please just go. Your husband took a bullet for you, and you repaid him by disappearing. The least you can do is explain why. Something in her face crumpled. She closed the door, and for a moment Marcus thought she was shutting him out entirely. But then he heard the chain slide free, and the door opened fully. The motel room was sparse. A single bed, neatly made. A small table with a laptop and scattered papers. A suitcase in the corner, still packed. Vivienne sat on the bed, hugging herself. You shouldn't have come. Then why did you tell your sister where you were? Marcus pulled out the desk chair and sat. Talk to me. Help me understand. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, in a voice so quiet he had to lean forward to hear, I'm not having an affair. Garrett thinks, I know what Garrett thinks. And I let him think it because the truth is so much worse. Marcus waited. Vivienne took a shaky breath. 3 months ago, I started noticing someone following me. Different cars, always keeping their distance. At first, I thought I was being paranoid. But then I started getting texts from unknown numbers. Photos of me leaving work. Photos of me at the grocery store. Photos of me and Garrett having dinner. A chill ran down Marcus's spine. Did you report this? To who? I had no proof. Every time I tried to get a license plate or a clear picture, they'd disappear. And the texts would come from different numbers every time. Burner phones, probably. Why didn't you tell Garrett? Her laugh was sharp with pain. Because the texts also included photos of him. Coming out of the precinct. Getting into his car. Working crime scenes. And the messages said if I told anyone, especially the police, they'd kill him. They'd make it look like an accident, and I'd have to live with knowing I'd caused it. Marcus felt his blood run cold. Vivienne, who's doing this? Did they say what they wanted? That's the thing, they never asked for anything. No money, no demands. Just surveillance. Just watching. It went on for weeks, and I was losing my mind. I'd lie awake at night wondering if they were outside our house, if they were listening. I started working late just to have an excuse to be away from Garrett, to lead them away from him. The cologne he smelled was from my co-worker Preston. He'd given me a ride home one night when my car wouldn't start. That's it. No affair, no secret lover. Just me trying desperately to protect my husband from something I didn't understand. Marcus processed this. What about the shooting? Was that... Vivienne's face went even paler. That wasn't a random mugging, Marcus. I saw his face before he put the mask on. I recognized him. From one of the cars that had been following me, a gray Honda with a dented bumper. He'd been parked outside our apartment building 2 days earlier. Why didn't you say something at the hospital? Because he told me. Her voice broke. After he shot Garrett, after Garrett was on the ground bleeding, the guy leaned down close to me and whispered, "This is what happens when you don't follow instructions. Next time, I won't miss." Then he ran. Marcus was on his feet. Vivienne, this is attempted murder. You need to stay away from this. She stood too, her voice rising. Don't. You get it? They shot Garrett to prove a point. To show me they could hurt him whenever they wanted. And then 2 days ago, I got another message. It said, leave him or we'll finish what we started. So I left. I packed my things and I left because I love him too much to let him die because of me. Marcus ran a hand through his hair. This is insane. We can protect you. We can protect Garrett. But you have to let us help. How? You don't know who they are. You don't know what they want. And every cop you bring into this makes Garrett a bigger target. She sank back onto the bed, tears streaming down her face. I thought if I left, if I disappeared, maybe they'd be satisfied. Maybe they'd leave him alone. Marcus pulled out his phone. I'm calling this in. We'll get a detail on Garrett, trace these messages, find the shooter. No. Vivienne grabbed his wrist. Please, Marcus. Just Give me your word you'll keep Garrett safe. That's all I'm asking. Keep him safe, and I'll stay away. I'll disappear completely if that's what it takes." Marcus looked at this woman, this terrified, desperate woman who'd sacrificed her own happiness to protect the man she loved. And he made a decision that would haunt him. "I'll keep him safe," he promised. "But I'm going to find out who's behind this. And when I do, you're coming home." Marcus spent the next week digging. He pulled every case Garrett had worked in the past year, looking for anyone with a grudge. He tracked down the gray Honda. It had been reported stolen 3 months earlier and was found burned out in an industrial lot. He analyzed the shooting, looking for patterns, connections, anything that would point him toward the people threatening Vivienne. Came up empty. Garrett, meanwhile, was falling apart. He'd stopped coming to work, stopped answering calls. When Marcus checked on him, he'd find his partner sitting in the dark, drinking, staring at wedding photos on his phone. "I don't understand what I did wrong," Garrett said one night, words slurred. "I loved her. I would have done anything for her. I did do anything for her. I took a bullet, Marcus. And it still wasn't enough." Marcus wanted to tell him the truth. Wanted to explain that Vivienne hadn't left because she stopped loving him, but because she loved him too much. But he'd made a promise, and he wouldn't break it. Not until he had answers. Those answers came on a Tuesday morning, in the most unexpected way. Marcus was at his desk when a courier delivered a package. Plain manila envelope, no return address. Inside was a USB drive and a single sheet of paper with typed instructions. "Play this. Alone." Marcus's hand hovered over the drive. Every instinct screamed trap. But his curiosity won out. He plugged it into his laptop, headphones on, and pressed play. The video was grainy security footage, time-stamped 3 months and 2 days earlier. It showed the interior of what looked like a pharmaceutical warehouse. Rows of shelves stacked with boxes. And there, walking through the frame, was Vivienne. But she wasn't alone. She was with a man, tall, well-dressed, maybe 50 years old. They were having what looked like a heated discussion. The man handed her something. A document. Vivienne looked at it, her face going pale even on the low-quality footage. She tried to hand it back, shaking her head. The man grabbed her arm. Not violently, but firmly. The video had no audio, but Marcus didn't need it. He recognized a threat when he saw one, the footage cut to a different angle, different day. Same warehouse. This time, Vivienne was photographing boxes with her phone. Looking over her shoulder constantly. Scared. Another cut. Vivienne meeting with the same man in a parking garage. Handing over what looked like files or printouts. The man's face finally clear enough for Marcus to see. His blood turned to ice. He knew that face. Gregory Ashford. CEO of Ashford Pharmaceuticals, the company Vivienne worked for. But more than that, Marcus had investigated him 2 years ago on suspicion of illegally distributing prescription opioids. The case had been dismissed due to lack of evidence that had mysteriously disappeared from the evidence locker. Marcus had suspected corruption within the department, but could never prove it. The video ended with a final message in white text. She saw something she shouldn't have. She's been gathering evidence against us. Make this problem disappear, or we will. And suddenly, everything clicked into place. Vivienne hadn't been targeted because of something Garrett had done. She'd been targeted because of something she'd discovered. Whatever illegal operation Ashford was running, she'd stumbled onto it, and instead of immediately reporting it, she tried to gather proof. And they'd noticed. The surveillance, the threats, the shooting, it was all about silencing her. And they'd used her love for Garrett as leverage. Marcus's phone rang. "Unknown number," he answered. "Detective Chun. You've seen the video." The voice was distorted, electronic. "Now you understand what's at stake. What do you want?" "We want Vivienne Walsh to forget what she saw." We want her to stay gone. And we want you to convince Detective Walsh to stop looking for her and move on with his life. Do that, and everyone lives. And if I don't? Then Detective Walsh becomes a widower. One way or another. The line went dead. Marcus sat back in his chair, mind racing. He had evidence now, not enough for an arrest, but enough to know the scope of what he was dealing with. Ashford Pharmaceuticals was running some kind of illegal operation, probably opioid distribution to black markets. Vivienne had discovered it. And they'd shoot a cop to keep their secret. He should report this. Should take it straight to Internal Affairs, the FBI, anyone who could handle a case this big. But if he did, Garrett and Vivienne became immediate targets. These people had already proven they'd kill to protect themselves. Marcus needed a different play. It took him 3 days to put his plan together. 3 days of careful preparation, secret meetings, and breaking about a dozen departmental regulations. The third night, he drove back to Kenosha. Back to room 217. Vivienne answered the door looking even more exhausted than before. Marcus, I told you, I know who's threatening you. I know what you saw. And I know how to fix this. He explained everything. The video, Ashford Pharmaceuticals, the illegal distribution network. Vivienne listened with growing horror. They sent you that video, she whispered. That means they know you're investigating. They want me to convince Garrett to move on, to forget about you. But I'm not going to do that. Marcus pulled out his laptop and opened a file. Instead, we're going to give them what they want. We're going to make you disappear. For real this time. I don't understand. I have a contact in witness protection. Unofficial channels. She owes me a favor. We can get you a new identity, new location, everything. But there's a catch. He looked at her steadily. You can never come back. Garrett can never know you're alive. As far as the world is concerned, Vivienne Walsh will cease to exist. The color drained from her face. You're asking me to let him think I'm dead? I'm asking you to let him grieve and move on. Because if you stay in this halfway state, gone but not gone, he'll never stop looking. And Ashford's people will use that. They'll hurt him to hurt you. There has to be another way. There isn't. I've thought about every angle. Either you disappear completely, or people die. Maybe Garrett. Maybe me. Maybe you. These aren't amateurs, Vivienne. They burned a warehouse to the ground last year to cover their tracks. 3 people died in that fire. They'll do it again. Vivienne was crying. Now, silent tears rolling down her cheeks. How do we fake my death? Car accident. Remote highway. Body burned beyond recognition. We'll use DNA from your hairbrush at the apartment to make it official. Your sister will identify personal effects. It'll be tragic. It'll be convincing. And it'll set you free. I'll never see him again. It wasn't a question. No. But he'll live. And eventually, he'll heal. He'll find someone else, maybe. Have the life he deserves. Without me. Without you, Marcus confirmed. I'm sorry, Vivienne. I truly am. But this is the only way I can keep my promise to keep him safe. She was quiet for a long time. Then slowly she nodded. Okay. Tell me what I need to do. The memorial service was held on a gray Saturday in October. The turnout was massive. Garrett's entire precinct, friends from the academy, neighbors, people from Vivienne's work. Everyone came to mourn the woman who died in a horrible accident on Route 41. Marcus stood beside Garrett at the front of the church, both of them in dress uniforms. Garrett had cried himself dry days ago. Now he just looked hollow, like someone had scooped out his insides and left only a shell behind. I keep thinking about that night, Garrett said quietly as the priest droned on about eternal rest. I took a bullet for her, And she left anyway. And now she's gone. Really gone. And I never got to tell her. His voice broke. I never got to tell her it didn't matter. The affair, the lies, whatever it was. I just wanted her back. Marcus's throat tightened. She knew I'm sure she knew. After the service, after the reception, after everyone had gone home, Marcus found himself at Garrett's apartment. His partner was packing away Vivienne's things, boxing up her clothes for donation, her books for storage. I found something, Garrett said, pulling out a shoebox from under their bed. Letters. She'd been writing letters but never sending them. He handed one to Marcus. The paper was creased, tear-stained. My dearest Garrett, I'm writing this because I can't say the words out loud. I'm in trouble. I saw something at work that I shouldn't have seen, and now people are threatening to hurt you if I don't stay quiet. I can't let that happen. I can't be the reason you get hurt. Need you to know that everything I've done, the distance, the lies, even leaving, it's all been to protect you. Because I love you more than my own life. You proved that. When you took a bullet for me. Now it's my turn to protect you. If you're reading this, it means something has gone wrong. It means I didn't find a way out. But please, my love, don't blame yourself. Don't let this destroy you. You have so much good left to do in this world. Live for both of us. Forever yours, Vivienne. Marcus felt like he'd been punched in the gut. The letter was dated 3 days before the accident. Vivienne had known. She'd known what Marcus was planning and had left this behind as a final message. She was protecting me, Garrett said, his voice thick. This whole time. She was protecting me, and I thought she was cheating. I thought she didn't love me anymore. Marcus couldn't speak. Couldn't tell him that Vivienne was alive, living under a new name in Portland, working at a bookstore and trying to build a new life. Couldn't tell him that she'd asked Marcus to deliver one final message, that she'd loved him until her last breath and beyond. You okay? Garrett asked, noticing Marcus's expression. Yeah, Marcus lied. Yeah, I'm okay. 6 months passed. Garrett slowly began to heal. He went to therapy, started working cases again, even went on a few dates. That went nowhere, but at least showed he was trying. Marcus watched his partner rebuild himself and felt the weight of his secret grow heavier every day. Then, on a Tuesday morning, everything fell apart. Ashford Pharmaceuticals was raided by the FBI. Simultaneously. 23 locations across 6 states. The news called it the largest pharmaceutical crime bust in a decade. Gregory Ashford was arrested, along with 17 executives and associates. The charges read like a crime novel: illegal distribution of controlled substances, bribery, money laundering, conspiracy to commit murder. Marcus watched the news with his heart in his throat. They're saying a whistleblower came forward, the anchor reported. Someone inside the organization who'd been gathering evidence for months. The FBI isn't releasing the informant's identity, but sources say this person risked everything to bring these criminals to justice. Garrett appeared at Marcus's desk. You seeing this? Yeah. Vivienne worked for Ashford Pharmaceuticals. Garrett's voice was odd, carefully controlled. She was a sales rep. She would have been in and out of their warehouses all the time. Marcus said nothing. The timeline matches, Garrett continued. Her acting strange started about 3 months before the shooting. She was staying late at work. She was anxious, paranoid. And then she left. And then she died. Garrett, she was the whistleblower, wasn't she? His partner's eyes were bright with unshed tears. She saw something, and she was building a case, and they killed her for it. Marcus wanted to deny it. Wanted to maintain the lie. But Garrett deserved better than that. Yes, he said simply. Garrett sat down heavily. Did you know? When she was alive, did you know what she was doing? Not until after. I found evidence. But by then, Marcus trailed off. By then she was gone. Garrett wiped his eyes. She died a hero. She saved God knows how many people from getting hooked on illegal opioids, and she died thinking I believed she was a cheater. She knew you loved her, Marcus said. That's what mattered. They sat in silence for a while. Then Garrett stood. I need to go to her grave. I need to tell her. I don't know something, anything. He left, and Marcus returned to the news coverage. His phone buzzed. Text message. Unknown number. It was a photo. A woman standing on a beach somewhere, sunset behind her. She was thinner than he remembered, her hair now blonde instead of auburn, but there was no mistaking that face. Vivienne. Below the photo, a message. Thank you for everything. Tell him I kept my promise. I lived for both of us. Marcus stared at the photo for a long time. Then he deleted it. Some secrets, he realized, had to stay buried. Because the truth wouldn't set anyone free, it would just open old wounds that had finally started to heal. Garrett would spend the rest of his life believing his wife died a hero, never knowing she'd sacrificed even more than that. She'd given up her entire existence, her identity, her family, her love, to keep him safe. That was the real ending to their story. Not death, but something far more complicated. A love so deep it required the ultimate sacrifice, living on alone, just so the other person could be free. Marcus looked at his computer screen, at Gregory Ashford's smug mugshot, and felt a grim satisfaction. Vivienne had won. She'd brought down the operation that threatened her. And she'd paid for it with everything. Almost everything. Because somewhere in Portland, in a small apartment overlooking the river, a woman with blonde hair and a new name was alive. And maybe that was enough. Had to be enough. Because in this story, it was the only happy ending anyone was going to get. 2 years later, Marcus received a wedding invitation. From Garrett was getting remarried. To a woman named Claire, a social worker he'd met through the department. The photo showed them smiling, genuinely happy. Garrett looked lighter than Marcus had seen him in years. Marcus almost didn't go. The weight of his secret made celebrations feel like lies. But he went anyway, because that's what partners did. The wedding was beautiful. Small, intimate. Garrett and Claire exchanged vows in a garden, promising to love each other through whatever came next, the reception. Marcus found himself at the bar, nursing a whiskey, when someone sat down beside him. Beautiful ceremony, a woman's voice said. Marcus turned, and nearly dropped his glass. She was different, blonde hair now cut short in a pixie style, different colored contacts changing her eyes from green to brown, subtly altered makeup that changed the structure of her face. But he knew her. Knew her despite the 2 years and all the changes. What are you doing here? He hissed. Saying goodbye, Vivienne, or whoever she was now, said quietly. I needed to see him one last time. To see him happy. This is insane. If someone recognizes you, they won't. I made sure of it. She sipped her champagne, watching Garrett dance with his new wife. She's good for him. I can tell. She'll take care of him in ways I never could. You should leave. This is too risky. I know. I will. But she didn't move. Just sat there, watching the man she'd loved enough to die for, smiling as he found happiness with someone else. Marcus, I need you to understand something. What I did, faking my death, disappearing, I'd do it again. Every time. Because he's alive. He's safe. He's happy. That's all that matters. He married someone else, Marcus pointed out, perhaps more harshly than he intended. Her smile was sad but genuine. I know. And I'm glad. Because if he'd spent the rest of his life mourning me, then my sacrifice would have been for nothing. She set down her champagne and stood. Take care of him, Marcus. And if you ever feel guilty about what we did, remember, we saved his life. Sometimes love isn't about being together. Sometimes it's about making sure the person you love gets to live their best life, even if you're not in it. She started to walk away, then paused. Oh, and Marcus? In my new life, I'm a paramedic. Saving lives, just like he does. I'd like to think he'd be proud of that. He would be, Marcus managed. She smiled one last time, a ghost of the woman Garrett had loved, and disappeared into the crowd. By the time Marcus looked again, she was gone. He never told Garrett. Never even hinted at it. Because some truths were too complicated for words. Some love stories didn't have clear endings, just ellipses that stretched into forever. Garrett Walsh had taken a bullet for his wife. And in return, she'd given him the greatest gift she could, a life worth living, unburdened by the danger she carried. That was the real story. Not about betrayal or death, but about a love so powerful it transcended everything, even existence itself. Marcus ordered another whiskey and raised it in a silent toast to the ghost at the wedding. To the woman who'd loved so fiercely she'd erased herself from the world. And to Garrett, who'd never know just how much he'd been loved.